All right, welcome everybody to the AFC Northcast. I'm Justin here, joined as always by Joey and Chad.
Howdy.
Sweet intro, man. Anyways, we're here to give you the latest news, reviews, and previews on what's going on in the NFL's hardest hitting and most competitive division. That's right, the AFC North. So I'd like to invite you to watch us live Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook Live. We're doing live streams. Those will obviously change when the regular season hits, but for the rest of the preseason, which is this week and next week, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, catch us live, join the conversation, have fun. If not, always check us out wherever you get podcasts at. Just look for AFC Northcast, and you will most certainly find us. Also, Pigskin Pick'em, it's back, it's up. Joey provided the link in the last description of the last podcast that we did. So look for it there or look for it on Facebook. We'll go ahead and refresh that and put that back in your feed. We got some people in it now, but we need some more. We had like almost a dozen people last year, and it was pretty fun. So join, check that out. If you've never done Pigskin Pick'em before, it's super easy. You just say, who do I think is going to win this game? And you go through all 16 teams, and whoever has the most correct wins. So yeah, join the Pigskin Pick'em. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it was very fun last year. While we've got everybody here, ideally, who might be listening, it's on Yahoo. Hey, guys. You're going to be famous. It's on Yahoo, Pigskin Pick'em. The group ID is 18673. And the password is AFC Northcast, all lowercase. That's my wife, Brenna, that you're hearing in the background. She says hi.
She says hi and she loves you, everybody. All right, cool. So this episode, well, we're talking news as always, but also dress rehearsal was this week. Preseason game number 3, largely regarded as the most important preseason game. So we're going to be going through, spending a bunch of time on that. And then also we're going to try to get some fill in the blanks and some other stuff as well. Joey did some Madden this week as well. So if you're into Madden, catch us live on Twitch. Joey's going to play some Madden. I've also been kind of rolling around the idea of playing some Tecmo Bowl as well, because I got some Tecmo Bowl on NES. And Chad seems to enjoy that. So maybe we'll get that rolling too. That'll be kind of fun. But yeah, check us out wherever you can get any way to interact with people on the internet. We're there to interact with you. All right, guys. So what's going on? What's going on in the NFL? What's the news?
Well, there's some pretty big news. I would say the biggest news story of the last few days is one top-tier quarterback by the name of Andrew Luck decided he's done.
Yeah.
Called it quits, called it a career.
In the most classiest manner possible, he was booed out of the stadium. And some people, they were reading tweets about it this morning on this syndicated radio show that apparently some people said that like his career wasn't impressive and he didn't do very much and yada 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 and he doesn't deserve anything. And I don't know, man. Maybe they were spoiled by Peyton Manning before him, but I don't know. Cleveland would have loved to have had Andrew Luck instead. I'll say that much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, he was a potential Hall of Fame caliber quarterback if he had gotten to play any longer or hadn't missed so much time with injuries. And I'd say it's pretty unlikely that happens for him now, but that certainly shouldn't be considered a slight on his ability while he was with the team. Yeah. I mean, he was an awesome quarterback, and they were pretty darn lucky to have him flow seamlessly into the position after Peyton Manning. That's a heck of a...
Right. Yeah, he was fantastic, and he dragged a lot of cruddy teams to the playoffs on his back when he had one of the worst O-lines in football, and the Colts did him dirty, put his body and his mind through hell and all the weird doctor stuff with the shoulder and
the neck
sucks. They should have given him a standing ovation,
right?
Rather than booing him.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see what kind of precedent this will set for the rest of players potentially retiring early.
Yeah, it seemed kind of classless, if you ask me. I don't know, to be booing him out of the stadium, especially when he was talking about his injuries that he's had. and that he's had to try to kind of work through. I don't know. Maybe the Colts were excited, or Colts fans were excited this season because they made it to the playoffs last season with luck again, and it was just kind of that big high, and then that roller coaster coming straight back down to realize that now they got Jacoby Brissett, and then now they got to, or at least their GMs have to fish around to see if they're going to have someone start over Jacoby Brissett, or if he's their guy.
Yep, it's going to be a rough year for them, and I don't, certainly you can understand that the fans had an emotional outburst, and hopefully they will come through all the way 180 in the other direction now that they've had time to reflect on. Because, this happens anywhere where there's a super popular thing with a lot of tradition. There's going to be a lot of negative reaction to change, and all this head injury stuff and all this kind of support for players as opposed to the tradition of toughness and just going through it and whatever. It's awkward. We're in an awkward phase, and Andrew Luck is the face of it right now.
Yeah, I think as far as Jacoby Brissett goes, I don't think that this screws the Colts as much as people think. Obviously they go from being a potential contender in the AFC to probably not. Talking maybe as a ceiling more of like a wild card contender.
You think so?
I think so. The first time Jacoby Brissett filled in for Andrew Luck, he was traded to the Colts like 2 weeks before the season started when they figured out that Luck wasn't going to be able to play at all. He's been in this system with this new offensive coordinator for, whatever it is, a year and a half. I think it'll be better. I'm not ready to condemn Jacoby Brissett yet.
Yeah, I'm not going to condemn him. I'm just going to tell you they're not making the playoff. Like, he's just not good enough. He's been playing all preseason. What are they? They're not. Yeah. I guess he could make the playoffs. Marcus Mariota made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think the difference also in the last 2 years is Chris Ballard's been there now, and they have a real GM, and they have a real team around them. The year before Andrew Luck missed, like I said before, he was dragging that team to the playoffs, kicking and screaming.
Right.
And they have more of a team now than just Andrew Luck and T.Y. dudes.
That's fair. I guess I will also acknowledge that the other teams that could win that division are just totally prone to collapse at any moment.
Right.
And look at Lamar Miller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
guess you never know.
They got Duke, though.
I'll say this. The Steelers play them, and I'm not concerned.
Agreed.
Yeah, fair. I guess now the Jags are favorite to win the division, which is kind of interesting, especially after Lamar Miller. Because, again, they still have, Alfred Blue, who I think did pretty good No, he didn't. Was that head shake?
Well, who are you talking about?
Where is he?
He got traded, huh? Yeah, they got Duke Johnson, and hey, Look, Cleveland loves Duke. Duke was good. I don't know if he's more like that power up the middle kind of guy at all, but I don't know why I said I don't know, but he definitely is not. But he's still definitely an awesome running back, so I don't think that kills it for the Texans, and it doesn't kill my hype for the Texans, at least based off of what I was talking about last year. So, but anyways, enough about them. What else? Anything else going on?
The grievance hearing on Friday. This will probably be the last Antonio Brown helmet update. He asked for the 1 year grace period. He got denied. So he's got to get a new helmet. He's been in camp. Apparently, he's got a couple different helmet companies that want to.
I'm sure
pay him to wear their helmet.
Yeah, I'm told he's getting sponsored to wear his new helmet.
Yeah, you don't say.
Good for him.
Who's the genius now?
This was all just a big ploy for him to get.
And he didn't have to do training camp.
Yeah, dude, he skipped training camp. He got to fly on a hot air balloon. He got to be on television, and he got a new sponsor.
Right, because he never gets on television.
he can blame it all on the NFL.
Right.
That's right.
Goddamn Goodell.
I have one more piece of news that I think Joey will love. Joey's going to love this news. Guess who is going to be on Dancing with the Stars this year, Joey?
Justin Tucker.
I already know. What'd you say, Justin?
I said Justin Tucker.
Mm-mm.
I don't know. I could see
Better.
that. I don't know. Better?
Ray Lewis.
Oh, jeez. He's going to murder his competition. Get it? Oh, man. Anyways.
What do you think, Joey? Over under on episodes until he does the squirrel dance.
Just about, yeah.
The first one. It'll be the first thing he does on Dancing with the Stars, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I
Nice.
like it. So you're going to watch?
Absolutely not. I'll watch the highlights, the clips on Twitter or whatever
Right.
comes the next day.
Jeez, oh, man. Dancing with the Stars. Well, I guess makes sense that Justin Tucker wouldn't do it. I don't know. He's the only Raven I like. At least at this
Justin
point.
Tucker?
Yeah.
All right. What about Ricard? No? Nothing? Nothing for Ricard? No love?
Justin doesn't like lunch pail football.
All
I don't
right.
understand.
He likes his showy quarterbacks and his receivers that haven't earned their nickname.
No, I like fucking McSorley is what I like.
Me too.
Over Lamar Jackson. Anyways, so all right, is that it? Anything else?
Yeah, I don't really feel like talking about Hard Knocks. I'll be honest. They featured Antonio Brown like the whole time, who I obviously love and respect, and it was kind of boring. They managed to talk about him like the whole episode without really like covering the best parts.
Right.
So whatever.
Hard Knocks has lost its gas.
I think it maybe has. I'm gonna keep watching it, but it just like I don't know. It has. It lost a little bit of that gas for me.
Yeah. Plus the Raiders.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. I very much enjoyed that episode of Hard Knocks. My favorite football coach made it. One John Harbaugh. When they were talking about Darren Waller, when they brought him up, I was like, "Oh, I know that name." So he was a cool story. I liked the Antonio Brown stuff. He walked into some jokes head first, which was great. He was on the sideline complaining to Gruden, asked him how his feet were, and he said, "Well, like if I've been running on them for a while and they get hot, then like sometimes it bothers me and they get a little numb." And he was like, "Well, if your feet get hot, maybe you should try like you ever heard of these cryotherapy chambers?"
Nice.
They had Caliendo on there doing his John Gruden impression in a team meeting. That was fun. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It wasn't the in-depth like AB stuff that I really wanted. But they did a great. AB's PR guy must have been like in the production room, because I think they did a pretty good job of painting Antonio Brown's protagonist in all this.
Yeah, I mean, he sounds kind of dumb, but he's a professional athlete, so that's pretty forgivable. Yeah.
Oh my God! Speaking of, you know what I heard recently about Antonio Brown? So speaking of, he sounds kind of dumb. So
Uh-oh.
I guess at the last Pro Bowl, I think it was either the last one or the last Pro Bowl he attended, whatever. There was some shit where Antonio Brown had a personal chef, and he had the personal chef over, and he was supposed to be like cooking for everybody and making these fantastic meals or whatever. Professional chef, maybe not personal, but professional. Long story short, made some fish for them and left the fish head in the fridge, right? So Antonio Brown, being a fan of The Godfather, opened the fridge and found the fish head in there and took it the same way as finding like the horse head in the bed for the producer and was like, "What the fuck's this mean?" And like fired the dude on the spot and basically like kicked him out and was like, "Get the fuck out of here," but kept all of his like equipment and his, I guess you call them tools, right? And all of his shit that was there. And now there's an open lawsuit against Antonio Brown to get his money back for all like the tools and like the shit that he, or like the kitchenware, whatever you want to call it, that was left there. And that to me just like I don't know, encapsulated Antonio Brown is what it did.
I deliberately did not open that headline because I feared what it would bring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds par for the course over the last couple of years, and he'll probably lose that lawsuit by the sounds of it. Luckily, he decided not to retire, so he can just pay.
Yeah, he'll be like, here's $3,000, whatever, $4,000.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay.
Here's 10% of my game check.
Yeah.
Or just use some of that sponsorship money from his new helmet.
I was just about to say that. Look at that. Great minds think alike.
That's right.
All right, cool.
So Antonio Brown's going straight back to the Pro Bowl. He's great. I think we all agree that he's awesome. We love him and can't wait to watch him play this year.
We'll see. Has he played in the preseason at all? Did anyone know?
No, he's barely even practiced.
Yeah. Nor should he. Whatever. Preseason's dead.
I would disagree only because with Derek Carr, like you have to learn your receivers, right? And figure out like how fast they are, where they're going to be. Like, so everyone talks so much about chemistry, right? And I think I kind of believe in that, you know? So even with somebody like Antonio Brown, you know, Derek Carr thrown to these fucking jobbers last year, still has to develop this chemistry to figure out, can Antonio be there at this time? Or am I not giving him enough credit and saying that, you know, throwing him short or whatever it is? So I'm sure they get some of that in his like 1 or 2 practices of all, but I think that that's kind of important.
Well, I mean, I don't think Derek Carr's played much with anybody in preseason games. Missing practices is the big detriment. But Phillip Rivers said this week or last week for their preseason game that the joint practice that they had last week, which most of the teams are doing now. So a couple days before the preseason game, they have joint practices all day where they practice against other teams and they can do situational stuff. And a lot of that is being attributed, or the lack of starters that we're seeing this year in the preseason is being attributed to being able to get the work done in a more controlled environment in these joint practices. Phillip Rivers said that he got 10 times the work done in a joint practice last week than he had in any preseason game he's ever played in. So I think the players like it. I think the coaches like it. The only people that don't like it is rich white people at TV companies and
networks
that own football teams and trying to put asses in seats.
Yeah, I don't think the Steelers do that yet, but I wouldn't mind hearing it. It would be productive.
Yeah, I think the Ravens did it with the Jags and with the Eagles. I don't think they did it with Green Bay, but
yeah, the Browns did it with the Colts. I know that. So, and apparently the first practice was a little chippy. As Joey
the Browns did it with the Colts, and then Baker didn't play at all.
No, he played. He played for the first
like a drive
series, I think it was. Yeah, so
you know, like so that's what
in the second game.
I mean, that's what that affords you.
I'm misremembering, but yeah, no, you're right.
So, I mean, we just had dress rehearsal week and starters. I mean, Aaron Rodgers hasn't played all preseason. Like, there's a ton of guys that haven't played as down.
Yeah. So leading into that, I guess, let's talk about some preseason dress rehearsals. So first game we'll talk about is going to be the Bengals against the Giants. So the first thing I'll say is that the defense as a whole, which is some that we criticized pretty heavily last year, I was actually impressed. And I wrote down, like, dare I say, ... impressed is exactly what I wrote down. I think there was a lot of good coverage, with the exception of one player, but we'll get back to him in a second. And there was a lot of aggressiveness from the defensive line that obviously we've always seen with the Bengals defensive line that was really good. Linebackers had some good coverages. You know, but then I kind of thought and turned it around back on myself and said, but it was against the Giants, who don't really have a whole lot of weapons, especially with Saquon Barkley not really playing, and Eli Manning only played for like the first drive, I want to say, the first series, maybe 2 series, if I remember correctly. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I would say that of the three of us, I probably am the highest on the Bengals defense. I think, but I actually don't think that they've shown their most potential yet because Geno Atkins has hardly played. They've been very sparing with Carl Lawson and even Sam Hubbard. So the defensive line, even when it looks good, I think is just a shade of what it's going to be. And actually, this past game was the first time we saw William Jackson the third and Jesse Bates.
Right.
And I didn't think that William Jackson had his best game, but I don't think it's going to take him long to get back to where he needs to be. So I guess I would say that I was disappointed, but I still think that they could be problematic for a team that underestimates them going forward.
Right, but I mean, as a whole, if you look at it, like, I don't remember if it, like, the Giants didn't even score until, like, the third quarter, I think it was. Something crazy like that, so, I don't know. As much as, so, specifically, William Jackson, like you said, didn't have that great of a game, but who had in my opinion, a shitty fucking game, who I guess for the Bengals made my shit list this week, was Tony McRae, who's number 29. He's the corner for the Bengals, and man, that dude missed fucking, missed coverages, blown coverages the entire fucking time. So the few completions that were completed were in his direction. So if he makes the team, I would be disappointed. That's just my opinion, but.
Yeah, I lump Sean Williams in there too. He did not impress when he was in. But yeah, like Chad said, we haven't seen what this defense really is. I mean, goes back to the preseason. Everybody's trying to protect their assets.
Right.
The little bit of time that Carl Lawson was in, he forced a fumble.
Yeah, he's a man-child.
Jesse Bates is fantastic. PFF was really, really high on him last year, and I mean, you can't expect anything other than development, I don't think, from him.
My notes on Jesse Bates are that he's their best safety and their best linebacker.
That's a good point, yeah.
He makes tackles.
Well, I mean, Nick Vigil, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so yeah, I think I was pleasantly surprised because the other games I had to kind of like watch the Bengals, but this one I really kind of took an in-depth kind of look at their defense, which, like I said, we kind of ragged on a little bit last year, specifically towards the end of the season, and I was kind of impressed. But again, the drawback being that it was against the Giants, who don't really have this high-flying offense. Is that what you would call it? I mean, like, what do they really have for receivers? And again, Saquon Barkley didn't even play, so we'll kind of see how that turns out. I'm not going to get too excited about it. So as far as offense goes, some interesting things. Like we were saying, some starters didn't really play. Uzomah played over Eifert. Eifert did not play this game. It's like he's wrapped in, bubble wrap. Same thing with John Ross. Wrapped in bubble wrap. Don't play him, which, I don't know. I think John Ross needs the reps, but hey, we'll get to that later maybe. But so CJ Uzomah had 2 big catches specifically, and played for a good portion of the game with most of, I guess you would say, a lot of the starters. So I think Uzomah in his 5th year is growing a lot, and I think it would behoove them to keep them on their roster. Especially, didn't they just get rid of Tyler Kroft as well?
Yeah.
Right. So Uzomah, I think, is going to be an important part of the tight end group to keep on the roster because I think he can start to fill the shoes of Eifert whenever he breaks his leg again this season.
I agree. I thought he had a nice game, probably had a nice week of practice, probably had to after committing like 3 penalties in a row last week.
Yeah,
he looked good. He looked like the player he's supposed to look like, which is good news for the Bengals. They something to be excited about.
Yeah. And then I'll finish it off by talking about Cody Core. Cody Core, which Joey and I were dogging on last year. Just dogging on. He had 4 receptions this game, which is more than any game any game of the season last year. Last year he had 13 total receptions, and he's had 8 so far this preseason. So, I don't know, man. Maybe they're high on Cody Core. I don't know. Auden Tate was also a starter. He was listed as a starter. He only had 1 reception this game. Nothing really that exceptional out of him. But what I was really trying to look for and try to get a feel for is who's going to be their big I mean, at this point, number 2 receiver even, because with AJ Green still kind of going to be out for a couple of games, who's going to be their number 2 receiver or even their number 3 receiver? And it looks like they're sticking hard with Cody Core and Auden Tate for the time being.
If you'd like, I can tell you the answer to that question, not hypothetically, because they've announced it.
Oh.
It's Damian Willis.
So I saw a little bit of him in like the third quarter, but like to me it was
started.
like, yeah, but I didn't really see anything like big from him until the third quarter. So I kind of like wrote him off because in my mind it was like, well, it's with a bunch of like the third and fourth stringers on the Giants. And it was
I don't totally blame you. I feel like I've been a week behind this team all preseason. I was watching Josh Malone. And when I was watching Josh Malone, Auden Tate was coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I went into this game looking to focus on Auden Tate. And I actually wrote Damian Willis, contested catches all game. Where did he come from? And then later this week, they announced that he's going to be starting in AJ Green's position. So I guess they've liked him all camp. And I've just been behind the 8 ball because it's him. And what's his face that just signed the contract?
Tyler Boyd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm with you on being behind on the Bengals, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, either they have a bunch of decent guys that it's hard to differentiate from, or, they're bad because their best player got injured. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do seem to have a crowded receiving room. Josh Malone has been a touchdown machine all preseason. Tate and Core have both gotten a lot of reps in the preseason, a lot of catches, a lot of targets. And then, out of nowhere to somebody like me who doesn't pay the Bengals very much attention, Damian Willis. So,
right. Yeah. And interesting that these starters were announced. And if you'll allow it, I have one other point that I'm pretty sure neither of you guys will care about because I am officially the O-line guy. So we all agree that Cincinnati's O-line is terrible.
Yeah.
So I was trying to watch Billy Price because he's kind of their biggest name player. He was a first-round draft pick. He got hurt last year, and he was healthy. And last game, he didn't start with the starters. And I was like, that's weird. So this is what I noticed happen. He did start this game, first-team center, and he didn't look great. He gave up a pass deflection on a bull rush right off the bat.
Right. With Dalton.
He got moved to left guard in the second quarter, and then he got moved to right guard in the third quarter. So he's playing all over the place, and he's playing a lot of snaps. So I'm like, what is going on here? Trey Hopkins, who I don't know who he is, but he played last year a lot. He moved into center after Billy Price. And then left guard was done by Michael Jordan, number 60. He's a rookie that kind of is out of nowhere. I think he's like a 4th-round pick. And I didn't think he looked that good. And he got replaced after the first series and apparently came back later. So I basically left this game thinking, wow, this line is even worse than I thought.
Yeah.
But here's some great news. That's the other starters that have been announced this week. So Billy Price officially demoted. He's on the bench. Billy Price is on the bench. Trey Hopkins starting center. Michael Jordan starting left guard.
Wow.
That's what. So week 1, get your pass rushing shoes on, whoever. It's gonna be awesome.
Everybody basically. See, at first when you said that, I was thinking, well, maybe they're trying to shift people around to check out backups, right? So when somebody gets hurt, will Billy Price as the center be able to play left guard or whatever the case might be? But yeah, I guess the demotion. Jeez.
When I took note of it too, they were playing musical chairs down there because last week Trey Hopkins started at center, and we were like, well, that's kind of weird.
Exactly.
And then he was bouncing around all over the place, and Billy Price was bouncing around all over the place. And it seemed to me, more than having guys try out for backup spots, that they were trying to find out who belongs where, because it was early in the game they were bouncing guys around, and then after halftime they were still moving guys around. It was like trying to figure out what the fuck they're doing with their offensive line.
Yeah, so that's the way it goes. I would love to play the Bengals early in the season because I just think it's going to be a mess. And I think you can be Joe Mixon or Barry Sanders or just about anybody, and it's going to be tough sledding.
Right. It's always a bad sign whenever you're still trying to figure out your offensive line in the preseason, in my opinion. So specifically, I guess you said Joe Mixon or whatever. Yeah, they also played a little bit of Giovanni Bernard this game as well. I think he only got like a couple of snaps. But there was another running back they had, Anderson, that they kept talking about a whole bunch. This rookie from Oklahoma. I thought he did all right. He was pretty. I don't know. He had a couple of decent receptions that they tended to blow up on the newscast when they're airing the game. But we'll kind of see where he fits in. It seems a little crowded for him though. He'll probably make the team, but between Joe Mixon and Giovanni Bernard, he's probably going to be spending a lot of time on the bench.
Yeah, I agree.
Rodney Anderson. But all right, cool. So let's move on. What's the next game? Let's talk about the Ravens.
All right, the Trace McSorley show.
Yeah, what was up with that, man?
My man. It was a bit of a homecoming for Trace McSorley. He went to Penn State, which is right there, right by Philly. Lamar didn't play in this game. Carson Wentz didn't play in this game for a dress rehearsal.
No.
I've already talked about the preseason trend. Also noteworthy, this game was delayed and then just straight up stopped due to inclement weather, lightning stuff. They delayed it for a little while and eventually decided this is bullshit and everybody's cooled down and why risk injuries and things like that. So Trace McSorley's final line was 19 of 28 for 203 yards and 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's a QBR of 112.6. Pretty good. Against a defense that, even though they didn't play their starters, they're considered a deep team. So Trace McSorley is a rookie quarterback. I think the expectations of him at the beginning of camp were probably that he'd be a practice squad guy, and then RG3 got hurt. And Trace McSorley's looked good for a rookie, for a 4th-round pick who's not considered a very polished passer. He was more an athlete-style quarterback in college.
That's interesting.
Relied on his legs a lot. I know that's weird for a white guy.
Well, not only is that
stereotype,
I guess, weird for a white guy, but also the fact that he's been passing so much in the preseason, and that's what stuck out to me is how well he's been passing in the preseason.
Yeah, he still looks like a rookie to me a lot. The statistics have been pretty good. But yeah, I mean, other than that, on offense, Justice Hill didn't do anything particularly dazzling. He has been solid in pass protection.
Yeah, he had a sweet block.
For such a small back, too. Apparently, he squatted like 5-something in college, and so he's a little powerhouse guy.
Does he squat more or less than you, Joey?
More.
Oh.
He probably weighs more than me too. Like, we're talking about him like he's a midget. Like, but yeah. So Trace McSorley was out there, and you could kind of see that he had more chemistry with some of the other guys that Lamar doesn't play with a lot. I think the leading receiver was like Michael Floyd.
Yeah.
So Hollywood Brown got in the mix and had a couple catches. Most notably, didn't get hurt. Yeah, I mean, the offense looked fine to me for a bunch of backups for what it was. It may have earned Trace McSorley a spot on the 3. Any other notes on offense?
Tell me this, Joey. I know my job here is to belittle your team, but be honest with me. When you saw Marquise Brown make that first catch and slip on his first step and get touched down, were you just like, I shrugged my shoulders. I was like, what? And then his next play was this whatever roundabout that got tackled for like 7 yards for a loss. And I was like, Way to go,
Whoa,
buddy.
it was 4. It was 4 yards lost. Okay.
I'm just saying he ran right into the tackle.
Right.
All that speed.
Yep.
He's still acclimating. I'm not worried about him yet.
Force is mass times acceleration. He's got a lot of acceleration, not so much mass.
I don't expect Hollywood Brown to be Deshaun Jackson in his prime this year. So we'll see. Miles Boykin has been more than sufficient to satiate my hunger for rookie wide receiver play.
I'm nervous about him too. I was watching Michael Floyd making plays, and I was like, you know what? This is the guy that I think they have to keep him on the roster because he can teach consistency to this kid. Like the way he uses his body, the way that he makes contested catches, like the way he doesn't run the wrong route and make his quarterbacks look like assholes. Like these are things that he needs to learn and learn quickly because I don't think that they're going to actually play Michael Floyd over him. Like he's going to have to be good quickly.
I'd actually be surprised if Michael Floyd made the final cut.
They need him. They need him. They need him to tutor. They need him to tutor Miles Boykin. That's my opinion.
Maybe they can bring him on as an assistant wide receivers coach. He doesn't catch on.
I don't know. What was the other thing I want to talk about with offense? Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews had a big catch and run. It was he had like a catch that was only like 10 yards or something like that. I wish I wrote down the numbers. But then he ran for like another like 15 yards with people like all tackled on him and all hanging on him and shit like that. That was a football fucking play, is what that was.
Everybody was comparing him to Gronk.
I was all about
that. He was
that.
dragging 3 guys down the field.
Right.
That's what I love about the preseason. You can see a play like that. You don't have to worry about the numbers. I just wrote Mark Andrews good. Like he's good.
Right.
Take him out.
Well, I mean, it just shows that the tight end group is deep, in my opinion, and that, as we were talking about, I don't know if Michael Floyd will make the roster. I was thinking, well, fuck, they got to have somebody to catch the ball. But then I thought about the tight ends, and I was like, probably. Hayden Hurst caught a pass. That was pretty impressive, right?
I know. Trace McSorley's a fucking magician.
I know.
Okay. Pop quiz, each of you. Who's your favorite receiver on Baltimore right now?
Just because of what I saw with that runs after contact, Mark Andrews.
Right now, the most fun receiver for me is Miles Boykin. Just because
Chris Moore.
He has shown a lot of potential. Chris Moore, specifically when Lamar is in there, those guys have some chemistry.
Yeah.
And he's been hanging around for a while.
I feel like he's the guy that Lamar can actually hit because he owns that first third middle of the field. Like he can actually do things, which is the other reason that frankly you don't need to worry about Marquise Brown because that's the stuff that Marquise Brown needs to learn. Chris Moore's going to tutor Marquise, Floyd's going to tutor Boykin, and then next year you'll have 2 great young receivers.
So
I hope so.
Real quick,
that's uncharted territory for a Ravens fan.
Well, we'll never know it because Lamar will never hit him.
So as we talk
that's what Trace is for.
So real quick, as we talk about players and stuff like that, I like to Google and just look stuff up just to see if something comes up or whatever. And I just looked up Marquise Brown because we were talking about him. And the picture that comes up for Marquise Brown is Antonio Brown. I don't know. I thought that was funny. But anyways, what else? What else you got?
So moving to the defense and talking about grading guys as good, Pernell McPhee has been a standout to me all preseason long. The Ravens moved him inside for a bit, and he was still able to get some pressure, and that allowed them to get Bowser and Tim Williams and some of these guys some more reps. Tyus Bowser had another good game. He was in for, I think, a couple tackles in the backfield there. Both those guys look good. Both those guys are in that weird third year, no man's land type stuff. So that was promising, but I think Pernell McPhee coming back to the Ravens is going to be really useful. And Don Martindale knows what strings to pull. and I think that'll help limit the damage lost by Zadarius Smith and Terrell Suggs, all the production that we got from those guys. I think also a lot of people forget that Judon is still there. And he had some standout performances last year, and he can still take over a game on the edge. So that was really promising for me. Looks like Jalen Ferguson's going to make the team. That's our bull rush specialist. And maybe Pernell McPhee can teach him a thing or two, because he needs to be able to do more than that to become a complete lineman. But yeah, I thought the D-line in general was good.
Yeah. So specifically you're talking about Judon, but something that got me excited was watching Marlon Humphrey in the beginning of the game. It was like the first or second play on defense, and he got a pretty nice quarterback hit, and it reminded me, like, damn, we got to play them twice this year. So I don't know. It was like almost a shutout until like the fourth quarter or something like that, man. So
it
the
was
Ravens
like
defense,
26-0 at halftime.
Right. Ravens defense, they be Ravens defense, man. It's just what they build their franchise on, and that's what you got to beat on the Ravens.
I will give credit to before anybody else says it. I will say that Josh McCown played,
and then also
he
Cody
got
Kessler
signed last week because their backup Nate Sudfeld got hurt.
Right.
So take that for what it's worth. But then, yeah, I think Marlon Humphrey is a nice segue to the secondary. Last week, I was kind of in panic mode with Tavon Young getting hurt and wondering aloud what in the world we're going to do in the slot position. And Mr. Brandon Carr started there and played really well. I heard a statistic this week on Ravens Film Study podcast from one Sarah Ellison, who is a really, really good. She's not technically a beat writer. She used to be on staff as a writer for the Ravens, but she's a good follow on Twitter and such for Ravens news if you're into that sort of thing. Brandon Carr played 244 slot snaps last year. Anybody want to venture how many catches he gave up? I know Chad knows already.
Well,
Justin?
Yeah.
It's either got to be really low or really high. So that being said, yeah, no hints. Really low or really high, right? And based on the tone, it's got to be really low. So I'm going to say, like, out of 230 something, he gave up like 20. How about that?
It's a good guess.
In 244 slot snaps last year, he gave up 13 catches for a total of 1.33 yards per completion and no touchdowns.
But who was he covering?
Slot receivers. What the fuck do you mean, who is he covering?
I don't know. I mean, I guess you got to see who, if it was anyone impressive. I don't know.
Oh, it wasn't Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, but he can't control who he's covering in the slot. The slot is the slot.
Yeah.
He was only targeted 15 times.
I was just about to say, right? So sometimes you're a victim of circumstance, so.
Okay. 1.3 yards per completion still.
I lied too. He was targeted 137 times.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't always giving up a catch either. Yeah, so, he seems like he'll be good.
Yeah, that eased my worries a little bit. I think it's going to be a committee for sure. And from the sounds of it, Anthony Averett is going to have his fingerprints all over the secondary this year. And then another note that Ravens Film Study had is that Wink Martindale likes to also, depending on what kind of personnel is in the game on offense, likes to have that nickel defensive back be a safety, which the Ravens also have that type of flexibility in the defensive backfield. So I've come off the ledge about the Tavon Young injury, and I am back on the wagon for the Ravens are going to be the best secondary in the league still this year.
Can I push
Tavon
you back over a ledge? I just want to push you back over a ledge a little bit. Just
Go
a
ahead.
little bit.
Do your best.
Okay. You have no middle linebacker. Chris Board was pretty good. He's hurt.
He cleared protocol this week.
He cleared protocol? That's good, because Kenny Young is trash. He's one highlight. I heard, I read that the Baltimore beatdown had him as the highest graded defender this week. I was specifically watching him. I had a friend like this in high school who was always really good at looking busy at his job. Kenny Young, he's number 40. He always shows up right after the tackle. He's always on camera, but he's never the one doing anything. He made like one good run stop early, and then he rode it all the way through the game to a good grade. He's nothing. You need Chris Board back, or else we're running right up the middle all day.
Good luck getting to the linebackers, bro.
Oh, we'll get there.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about some Steelers, since we're almost at 45 minutes. Jeez.
We're doing well.
Yeah. We're killing it.
No,
compared
2
to
hours.
last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I have like two things to talk about with the Steelers offense. The first one is basically just Justin giving me an apology for how obviously amazing James Conner is. So I'll just give it to you right off the bat.
Yeah. Look, man. Look. All right. We all can't play the Titans. All right.
Backups.
So,
Preseason.
yeah, they're playing the backups. It's the preseason. Yeah, and we know that no starters played on any teams except for the Steelers. So, of course James Conner is going to look decent-ish, right? No, yeah, I'll eat some crow. I mean, look, here's my question: is that towards the end of the season last year, I think it's pretty clear that there was a drop off. Now, that was he ended up exiting the season due to injury, and there's obviously the question of, well, was it a nagging injury that eventually said I just can't do it anymore, and that's why there's a little bit of drop off towards the end of the season. But that's where my concerns were first kind of injected, is seeing him kind of decline after a little bit towards that season last year. And based off of the game that we saw, this last preseason game that we saw, he looks like he still got it.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair concern. I think they're going to have to monitor his touches as the year goes on. And one of my disappointments yesterday is that Jalen Samuels didn't really get much in the way of snaps with the first team. They actually brought in a guy that might not even make the team in Trey Edmonds a few times with the first stringers, which I'm sure they had a reason, but I was a little disappointed because I was looking forward to seeing Jalen Samuels operate more with the full offensive line and stuff. And I think we'll get plenty of it once the season starts. I was just excited to see it a little more. So yeah, I think it's fair to say James Conner hopefully will not be getting 25 carries a game, but you could take 3 yards per carry off what he averaged yesterday and he'd still be over 5. So it was a good day for James.
So what round of fantasy do you draft him in?
I would draft him in the back of the first round.
Okay.
And absolutely anywhere in the second round that he was.
Yeah, unfortunately, on my fantasy team last year, I had Alvin Kamara and James Conner, and I couldn't keep 2 running backs, but we'll talk about that some other time. But anyways.
Yeah, that doesn't make much sense to me on its surface. It sounds like more of a blessing than a curse and sort of a humble brag sort of situation. But...
No,
I'm so good at drafting, guys.
No, because I remember didn't I pick him up in free agency last year? Because I was like, oh, wait a minute, just like you picked up Tyler Boyd in free agency last year, or at least late in the draft.
I think I drafted Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, but
so the other thing I wanted to note was kind of like the wide receiver hierarchy. So I told you guys in the Steelers preview that Moncrief would be competing with Deontay Johnson and James Washington in the preseason. And I think we would all agree that from what we get to see, James Washington was by far the standout of that crew. And he was even a standout in the game we just watched. But he was a standout with the second team. Deontay Moncrief is clearly running ahead of James Washington. He's number 11. So if you're looking for number 13 and you don't see him, it's because number 11's on the field. And for me, the other disappointment was the slot receiver competition between Eli Rogers and Ryan Switzer. I'm an Eli Rogers guy. I think he runs better routes. I think injury kind of hurt him, and he's been out for so long that people forget. He only got like 1 or 2 plays with the starting offense, and Switzer, at least to my eye, was in there a lot more than he. So I'm a little nervous that Switzer is running distinctly ahead of him, and I just don't think he really offers that much. I think, frankly, he's more of a liability because it's so clear that he's either going to get hurt catching a ball over the intermediate middle or he's going to catch the ball behind the line of scrimmage. I just don't think you can do very much with him. So that's actually something I'm a little concerned about going into the season.
Yeah, I liked that James Washington touchdown, man. It was pretty nice. I liked it. So like you said, he made the clear standout for me as well. So I don't know.
My one hope is that when they go to 3 wide receiver sets in the regular season, James Washington will have shown enough that he will be on the outside, Moncrief on the other side, and they'll move Juju into the slot because Juju is actually the Steelers' best slot receiver. Mm-hmm. He's just also their best everything receiver, so he has to be on the outside. Right. So that's my goal, is to actually, if I can't have Eli Rogers win the competition, then make the competition cease to exist. Is my hope.
Right.
You guys have any other thoughts about the offense? I mean, the Steelers kind of dominated mostly the running game, it felt like.
I know Joey would be elated to hear Vance McDonald had a massive dropsies in like the first quarter or whatever. That was just like, what the fuck?
My best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Other than, no James Washington. We had the eye in the sky camera.
I like that.
That was fun.
You get to see
especially
more
on the
field.
Juju touchdown. It's pretty cool, and I think it's worth noting that you have to be significantly more open to look open from the eye in the sky view, and it shows how challenging it is for these guys as far as depth goes to really tell.
Yeah.
But yeah, Juju was like wide open on that touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. You almost couldn't learn anything from that play because it made it look too easy.
Unless you're on the Titans.
Here's hoping there's more of those. On defense, again, trying just to. There's a lot. You could talk about Devin Bush, whatever. I think the clear.
Whatever.
is that Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward form just by themselves as good of a defensive line as I think you're going to see this year anywhere. They're a wrecking crew, and they're going to make people hurt like big time.
They're good. And then if you allow TJ Watt and Bud Dupree to pin their ears back, and I know Bud is typically the one who's going to be tasked with dropping back on the strong side if he needs to, but the rush side with TJ Watt front is coming together very nicely, and then Devin Bush, who seems like the real deal.
Yeah,
I'm still not sold on the secondary, but at least up front, Devin Bush fills a huge hole that can't be understood.
Yeah,
and you opened the door for me on this. I am generally not a big Bud Dupree guy. He uses the same move every time. He runs as fast as he can around the corner. So if you know he's going to do that, you can make him run around a really, really long corner, and he's just not in the play. But yesterday, if you were watching closely, he had one of these straight arm bull rush sort of moves that he didn't get the sack, but he backed up his tackle right into the quarterback. He's had a lot of injuries over his short career, and he might just be starting to translate speed to power, which means he's not going to do the same thing every time. So as the resident Steelers homer, Pro Bowl? I think Pro Bowl this year for Bud Dupree.
Of course, from not a huge Bud Dupree fan to Pro Bowler Bud Dupree.
Yes.
Yeah, man. Like, the AFC North for sure has across all 4 teams the best defensive lines. I mean, like, if you look at any other division that has, like, consistently all 4 teams, like, the defensive lines are just, whew. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for quarterbacks going against the AFC North for sure, because there's going to be a lot of smash mouth football, as they would say.
Agreed. And if any of our listeners elect to watch the 4th preseason game, my last point that I wanted to bring up is about players that will be competing for a roster spot. I was trying to watch guys that the team seems to be very excited about. Middle linebacker, number 54, Ulysses Gilbert III, and right defensive end, Isaiah Buggs. And you know what? It was boring. They weren't doing anything at all. And they're probably going to make the team. But if you want to watch a guy that's making splash plays all preseason, his name's Tuzar Skipper. He's playing outside linebacker. He's number 51. And he's the one that's doing all the exciting shit. So look for him in the 4th preseason game. He should be on the right side, outside linebacker, and he's just all over the place. Number 51.
All right. Check him out. Look for him. See if he makes the team. Let's finish off the dress rehearsals with the best team in the AFC North.
We already talked about the Ravens.
No. We're talking about the original Ravens, right? The Cleveland Browns, right? So we were talking about defensive lines, and man, oh man. So they had back-to-back sacks twice in this game, and that doesn't even encompass all of the sacks that happened this game. Denzel Ward, I'll call it a sack, but I know he was out of the pocket and kind of a runner, whatever, but whatever. Like, it was sack city across the defensive line for the Browns. So the defensive line for the Browns: Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, Myles Garrett, Ogunjobi, good old Larry, right? It's going to be tough for people coming in to play the Browns. And again, like I said before, the whole AFC North, the defensive line is just it's strong on the Browns.
Yeah, Devereaux Lawrence, another guy to watch. He's been killing it in the preseason, and he's going to be in the rotation.
I disagree, but it was one of my notes that I made, so thanks, Joey. I have nothing to talk about Justin's shit-turd team. He was my guy to watch next week. He's killing it. He's a destructive force, but they already have like 5 guys rotating in 3 spots. He's going to be he might not even make the team. He should, but...
Yeah, I mean, he might end up finding a home regardless. Like, there's some of those guys that just still... at least show, and if he doesn't make a starting roster, maybe at least even a practice squad position. Yeah, but
I'm sure the Browns want to keep him.
Yeah, but I mean, when you got the depth that you have right now, I mean, it's just
I think as good as he's been, they're not going to be able to stash him.
Right.
If they cut him, he's gone.
Yeah. It's I heard a stat that supposedly like 40 people get picked up from the waiver at the end of the cuts every year, which is actually very few. If every team goes from 90 to 53. Yeah. But based on what I've seen, he could be one of them. He was really good this preseason from what I saw. Particularly noticed him this past game, but he seems to have had a very strong camp all around from everything I've read.
Right, and to go along with that with the defensive line, the run defense has been pretty stout, if you ask me, which is interesting because the last 2 years, I want to say, the run defense has been not so good, but the Browns before that were known for quite some time for having a heavy run defense, a very good run defense, so it's nice to see that kind of coming back, to know that we're not going to get chopped up the middle so often. All right, so I guess sticking with defense, talking about the backfield, yeah, man, I don't know what to say other than they did what they did last year, man. Terrence Mitchell was breaking up tons of fantastic passes. I mean, he was 10 yards off a guy and just ran right in and swatted the ball right out of the air. But I will say Eric Murray, he made my fucking shit list this week. There was a bunch of passes that I don't know. In my opinion, he should have been able to fucking break up, but he didn't. So I'm just putting him on there just because. Which is surprising because you would think that Jalen Strong would have made it instead, I guess, moving and rotating over to offense. So Jalen Strong, if you didn't hear, was cut from the team, which is kind of strange to hear because in the preseason, before the final cuts are kind of made, I don't know, that the first round of cuts haven't really started for much of the team. So to hear that he was cut already was kind of a strange thing to see. He got a lot of action. There was a lot of passes thrown in his direction. Some good, some pretty bad. So it was interesting to see because he did get quite a bit of play. If you ask me, I don't know.
Yeah, I think what I've learned over the course of this preseason about the Browns wide receivers is that they have 3 really, really good. And I don't care at all about the others. And that's probably fine. Honestly, I know I gave you shit about running spread, whatever, and all this stuff, but I don't really think it's going to be a problem. I think Willies can come in and just absorb a defender, 15 catches on the year, whatever. I'm not fretting it. Higgins, I think, number 81 out there, I think he's going to get legitimate targets this year, even though the talent disparity between him and Landry and Beckham is large.
Right.
I mean, he just has such good chemistry with Baker that I feel like those 3 wide receiver sets, and that's even if Njoku doesn't get any better.
Right.
So I think you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see a whole lot of Njoku either. Obviously, no Odell Beckham and no Jarvis as well. So I think actually technically Higgins is listed as a number 2 because Jarvis being the slot is going to be the number 3 or whatever, how that works. But yeah, Higgins built that chemistry with Baker, and it's just like we were saying before, a victim of circumstance that he happened to be on, I guess, the backups last year with Baker when Baker was kind of starting out. So they kind of built this repertoire with each other, and it just has skyrocketed Higgins, and obviously to show some of his own personal success as well, not to undershadow him and say that he's not a good receiver or anything. But that being said, so Jalen Strong obviously probably... I don't know if he'll find a home, to be honest with you, in this offseason. But Derek Willies seemed to kind of pick up on that. Early in the preseason, I think it was the first preseason game, he tried to do this. His first reception was this, one-handed catch that he tried to do off the side that was get the fuck out of here, right? Just catch the ball, put 2 hands on it, and make it happen. But it seems like he's gotten a lot more targets since then, and I think the big point of contention on the offense is who's going to be filling the depth at wide receiver. And I think they're going to go with Derek Willies. So we'll see what happens. Sheehy Giuseppe, maybe, I don't know. I haven't really seen a whole lot of him at all, to be honest with you. Maybe he'll be a return guy, but they haven't even really using him as a return guy since game 2 when he got hurt with that rib injury.
He had 2 this game.
What's that? Did he?
Yeah, and they were decent, but I don't think they were enough for him to end up on the team, which is sad. But
right.
But he actually, to me, he didn't look like he was forcing it. He looked like he made good decisions, and he got. I wouldn't consider them huge gains, but I think his first return was 15 or 20. He had 1 kick and 1 punt. He made it out to 25 on a kick return and had a 12-yard punt return or something like that. So, I think he did what he could with the opportunities he was given.
Hopefully he finds a home. That's all I got to say for him. Not only on a roster, but a real home. You get it? Because,
I get it.
I think that's a good point that you made, Justin, that can't be understated too much, is that Jarvis gets to move back a slot. And he doesn't have to bear the burden of being the guy.
Right.
Like he did last year. They asked him to do a whole lot last year that he hadn't really done in Miami. He was much more a slot specialist in Miami. So that'll be interesting to see the little bump that he could get. Maybe more volume of catches, but not as much downfield. They've got that covered.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. It looks like, so we were talking about Sheehy Giuseppe. It looks like Darren Johnson has a little bit more potential as a return guy. They've been using him for returns all season as a primary return guy. And I know I dogged him a little bit in game 2 because I didn't like his returns, but in game 3, they stuck with him, and I mean, I don't know. He had some returns, nothing really crazy, nothing that really stood out for me. So, last point I wanted to bring up is that Kareem Hunt has been struggling in the preseason. He has just been like running into the wall of the, offensive, defensive line. No really like outside around there. Hasn't really been making any like catches or anything like that on the outside or anything. I don't know what they're trying to do with Kareem Hunt. Maybe shake the rust off by getting him some bruises. I don't know. But I have been unimpressed by Kareem Hunt in the preseason so far. So.
Also, the offensive line is doo-doo.
Yeah, bingo.
I mean, so are you saying what? That the only reason why Kareem Hunt was successful in Kansas City is because of the offensive line?
Not the only reason. I mean, Baker was 10 for 26 in this game. You think that's what Baker is as a player?
No, but I also think that Baker didn't have... So I actually wrote that down because at first I was kind of like concerned, but then I watched it again. I kind of realized that a lot of it was receivers and then the quick throws like you were talking about. So, yeah, I don't know.
Look, they named Eric Kush the starting right guard. He's number 72. Get familiar with him, start to like him, and cheer really hard for him because he's going to need it. Yeah. He's going to need it big time. He's going to need all the support you can give him.
Right.
We just talked about the murderer's row of defensive lines in this division.
Yeah.
And while the Bengals definitely have some question marks, the Browns have just as many, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If I can remember the quote, and I'm not going to get it quite right, so sorry, Freddie Kitchens, I know you're a listener. I believe the quote, full support for Eric Kush. He is our starting right guard. If week 1 were this week, he's still a work in progress. Oh,
I think there's high expectations is what that means, but
indeed, yes, maybe
right. See, it's strange because they made a lot of changes to the offensive line this year when they let go of I already forgot his name, but they already they traded him with the Zeitler. That's right, Kevin Zeitler, who came over from the Bengals, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, and I liked Zeitler, and I remember when we first heard about the trade, I was like, fuck, man, like, because I thought that he was a good piece in the offensive line, but, I guess I put faith and trust in the team, and I was hoping that they would continue to move forward. I hope that the Browns don't fall into this thing that I've talked about, like last year, I talked about it a bunch, and that I've always just kind of talked about in general. But there seems to be this tendency in the NFL with teams, I don't know how to put this nicely, but teams that aren't as solidified, that they say, well, we got a good quarterback, so let's cheap out on the offensive line because the good quarterback will make up for that, right? Or we have a mobile quarterback, so we don't have to worry about the offensive line because he'll run outside the pocket and he'll be fine, right? And that seems to be a consistency, and it seems to be consistent that those teams are learning very hard that you can't fucking do that, right? So a prime example would be the Texans and the Titans. 2 teams, the same division, did the same fucking thing for years, and now the Texans are finally starting to build up their offensive line. Titans have kind of started to do that as well, and I just really hope the Browns don't fall into this thing of like, wow, Baker was so good last year, well, we can let Zeitler go or whatever, we'll figure it out with this Kush guy or whatever. So I hope that they don't fall into that. That's my hope as a Browns fan.
Yeah, I'll give you 2 other teams with 2 very highly regarded quarterbacks, the Seahawks and the Colts.
Right.
Since the Seahawks Super Bowl, and they had to start paying all these defensive players, and they had to pay Russell Wilson, and ever since Andrew Luck was drafted, the ceiling for a stellar quarterback behind an anemic offensive line is probably like a divisional round playoff loss.
Right.
We've seen it over and over again. So yeah, it's definitely something that needs to be addressed for a team that in some sports books are favorites to win the Super Bowl.
Already.
Yeah.
Oh man. So, with all those teams wrapped up, has dress rehearsal, I know it's kind of tough because this year with, like Joey was saying, all of the teams doing Their practices, their joint practices, the dress rehearsal didn't seem to carry nearly as much weight. But so far from what we've seen through the preseason, obviously Game 4, probably not going to see jack shit. Has your opinion about any of your teams or the other teams really changed at all from the preseason?
Yeah, I think that the Browns are better than I thought they were. I think that the Ravens are better than I thought they were, but also worse, maybe. And maybe just I didn't learn. Like, their defense is super complicated and they run, but not very much. And so, like, you can't really learn much about them in the preseason defensively as much as Joey wants to talk about how good the players are. We don't really know yet. And I think it's an honest to goodness concern because we also don't know if the new players are going to learn it fast enough. But I think that they will be. I think that the 3 teams competing for the division all have a lot to be excited about after these 3 games.
I agree. My one big takeaway that I think I didn't realize before the preseason was the Steelers have addressed a lot on defense. I think they've grown a lot on defense, and that's pretty scary. That's right.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point, actually, because like we said last season, we were dogging on their defense as well. And yeah, it seems like they've addressed some important critical positions. And to me personally, when we saw in Game 2, I know it was no Game 3, right? But when we saw Lamar Jackson, I was impressed that he was actually throwing the ball a little bit and made some completions. Now, obviously, we'll see how that translates to the regular season. But I think if Lamar Jackson can throw an accurate football to a receiver that can catch, you know, the Ravens offense might be a little bit more than what we anticipated from last season when everyone was just like, they can't keep running it, but they did anyways, right? So we'll see. All right.
And before we totally move on, I know we've kind of already moved on from the preseason games. Anybody venture a guess who Pro Football Focus thus far for the whole preseason had graded out as their highest graded off-ball linebacker? So inside linebacker, pretty much, not pass rushing linebacker.
Joe Schobert.
It's probably fucking Wang Chung, look busy, Kenny Young.
It is Joe Schobert.
There you go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Much maligned on the Browns message boards.
I was just about to say, yeah. So I didn't see the stat. I didn't see PFF because, like Dave alluded to, I have checked out of social media. But they had mentioned it a little bit during the Browns game, and I mean, Schobert just continues to fucking cover extremely well.
He was everywhere again.
I mean, you know, so like Joey said, much to the dismay of the Browns fucking message board, you know, you guys need to put your act together and you know, get rid of this bullshit. Joe Schobert can't tackle, even though he led the NFL in tackles like 2 years or whatever, you know. So
they sure do, because I've been watching those Browns rookie linebackers hard, and one of them doesn't play at all anymore. Taki, where are you? Where are you, Taki? And Mac Wilson kind of looks worse in coverage and in general every game. I still think they're probably going to end up as good players, but you've got good starting linebackers and you want to keep them.
Right. I was thinking that too, is that there's some decent depth going on there. I think if anybody has a chance of getting a lot of play time on the field, I would say Redwine has the best chance, in my opinion. But, you know, the season will tell and the coaches will let us know, right? So, okay. Well, with that being wrapped up, dress rehearsal being wrapped up. So next week is preseason game 4. Not too much craziness other than the anniversary of Freddie Kitchens calling plays for the first time on the Browns. But, I mean, that's no big deal, whatever. But other than that, we're going to be starting our actual predictions for the season. So tune in for that for sure. So next week, even though it's preseason week 4, I get it. But we will start our predictions for the regular season. So listen for that and listen for what's going on with that. With that, does anybody have any fill in the blanks to kind of wrap this up or what?
I have a few if we want to play a little bit.
I'm down. I don't have any this week, but that's fine because you guys haven't.
I have some.
All right. Sounds good. Joey, let's start out with you.
All right. Compared to Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson is blank.
Oof. Growing is what I would say.
Skinnier?
I would say growing. You know, like, he's got some work for sure, but Michael Vick, at least in his prime, that's some fucking shoes to fill. Let's just say that. So I'd like to see how he continues to move on from here. In the preseason, it seems like they wanted to force him to pass a little bit more than they wanted to see him on his feet, because it seems like they know what he's got when it comes to that. But yeah.
Plus, that's how you get hurt.
Right, exactly. A la RG3, also on the Ravens. Right. But
Chad?
Well, my first answer was skinnier.
that's also true.
I guess my second answer was nicer to dog. But that's old. That's mean. He's done his time. That's, why keep bringing up the same things over and over? It was compared to Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Better for the Steelers. Better. If you watched Michael Vick play for the Steelers, I think he did more damage to the Steelers than Lamar will this year.
Well, that was just my excuse to give you this statistic. Mike Vick, in his age 21 season, had a completion percentage of 44%.
Oof.
So the beginning of the Michael Vick experience, this electric young quarterback, 44%. Lamar Jackson's completion percentage in his year 21 season was 58%.
So
Hallelujah.
So don't buy Lamar
food for
Jackson
thought.
a dog, and he'll be fine.
One dog is fine.
Right.
If he has one dog, there's very little he could get in trouble for. Two dogs,
that's where you start getting
the mind starts to wander. Yeah.
That's a thought.
All right, Chad, you got one?
All right, I got one for you. Ex-Army Ranger Alejandro Villanueva goes to great lengths to reach a playing weight of 335 pounds to begin the season. In one instance, a 1-hour baked ziti eating competition with guard David DeCastro, Villanueva gained blank pounds.
Ooh. So the real question is, how much food do you think an offensive lineman that's been, I guess I wouldn't say starving himself, but has been, trying to cut back on, how much food do you think that human being can put down in one session? Like, that's, and ZD.
Bear in mind that he's not starving himself. He's gorging himself. He's trying to gain weight.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah. So I would say it's got, I'm going to shoot high. In my opinion, shoot high and say 12 pounds.
I was going to say 7.
Either way, that's a lot of baked ziti. 9 pounds he gained after 1 hour of eating baked ziti.
Price is Right rules, Joey wins.
Yeah, a lot of these linemen, it's interesting, a lot of these linemen effectively force feed because you just have to have mass.
And you lose weight throughout the season.
In their position. Yep.
Yeah.
Joe
and
Thomas
that's why
talks
when
about
they
it a lot.
retire, when they retire, you see these linemen get skinnier and you see all the running backs and wide receivers blowed up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Thomas looking like a fucking Greek god now. Jeez.
Looking like a triathlete. Yeah.
Jeez.
I can do more. I've got more.
Well, let's go back to Joey, yeah. Because I got none this week.
The greatest rivalry in the NFL is blank versus blank.
I mean, I'd love to say Steelers-Browns, but,
I guess
some
I'm pretty
good
obligated
rivalries.
to say
Colts-Patriots is pretty
Ravens.
big.
We're the AFC Northcast. I have to say that.
Right.
I can't say the Giants first.
Well, Steelers-Browns is timeless, man. How you going to put the Ravens in there?
We'll put it in there when you win. So maybe after this year.
We tied last year, all right, man. That's a step.
It was.
I don't know. Do you have one, Joey, while I try to rummage over?
I think the fun thing right now is the greatest rivalry in the NFL is Antonio Brown versus Helmet.
Nice. Could not disagree more. I'm sorry, could not agree more.
And there's been some good ones, even position battles, and typically that ends up on the edge. So in recent years, like Odell and Josh Norman to be in the same division. It's really fun.
Who's the guy that tore off Michael Crabtree's chain?
Oh, Aqib Talib.
Yeah, Aqib Talib.
Yeah,
that was good.
That's good.
Old school AFC North at the time, AFC Central. Ray Lewis and Eddie George. It was an interesting little rivalry for a season or two before Ray Lewis added to his body count.
Cowboys Redskins, I know, is a big one too, because they do always do that during the Thanksgiving game, which is, I don't know, maybe not so appropriate in today's day and age, but anyways, Chad, you got another one? What's up?
Well, if I'm going to go outside the AFC North, I'd probably say the NFC East. I'd probably say like the Giants and the Eagles, or the Giants and the Cowboys, or the Eagles and the Cowboys, or the Redskins, I guess, when they're good. It's been a while. Like the NFC East has a lot of tradition, and I feel like they're actually, when they're mediocre, they're kind of all mediocre. So they've had like a pretty steady diet of just rivalry building over even recent history, which is dynamic for the fans of those teams.
I think as a division, the one that comes close would be the NFC North.
I was just about to say that.
The long traditions and the rivalries between all those teams, even though the Lions have sucked for so long. They play on Thanksgiving every year, so you add that little thing in there with Vikings, the Randy Moss days playing on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys or the Lions. But yeah, the AFC North has some pretty storied rivalries too. Modern, I think, hands down, Ravens Steelers. Obviously, I'm a little biased.
Yeah, more recently, Ravens Steelers.
The last decade or so, I think Ravens Steelers probably takes the cake in the NFL.
It's been a good run.
Unfortunately, the Bengals and the Browns they're building. But anyways, any others? Chad, you got another one?
Sure, I got one more great. You're gonna love this one, Justin. This one's for you.
Oh, geez.
Ohio businesses are racing to buy support for the Browns from locals. For the second straight year, a company will offer free blank the day after Cleveland's first regular season victory on a first-come, first-served basis.
Bud Light, right?
It's not the only one. They're trying
Lap dances.
Say what?
Lap dances.
Any other guesses?
I don't know, man. So this is kind of a funny story, I guess. I told my wife, because we don't live in Ohio anymore, or whatever. But I told her when we went to go home to visit family, I was like, look on the street corners and you'll get a good grasp of what Cleveland's like. Every street corner is a church, and across the street is a bar. So church and bar, church and bar, church and bar, right? And if you know anything about State Road, if you're from the Cleveland area or even Parma or anything like that, or, what's it called? North Royalton, that whole area that State Road goes through, it's like church bar, church bar, church bar as you go the entire way down. So it's got to be alcohol, because they're not giving away free church. I know that much. It's got to be alcohol.
Well, I can see how, based on the street corners, you would not have gotten this one right, because the answer is spray tans. And this is the second year in a row. And if you're in the area, listeners, please visit spraytantheland.com for a list of participating salons.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, yeah. You're about to have a bunch of fat beer drinking Midwesterners,
right?
Getting spray tans, holding like a paper 6 on their chest.
Right. Yeah. Some like the whitest people on the planet, like the Irish, Polish, Czech, like motherfuckers getting spray tans in Northeast Ohio. It's gonna be good times.
What I love that I've now found 2 free things that people are giving away for the Browns to just be like not the worst. Any interception, first win, any win.
Jeez, well, let me book my flight, guys.
Make your appointment.
If there's anything I need,
tanning,
it's a goddamn spray tan.
First Monday.
Yeah, first Monday of every week. Anyways,
as opposed to the second Monday of every week.
Yes. Listen here. Anyways, anything else you guys want to rattle on about?
Yeah.
Well,
last thing, it's quick. Chad?
No.
In his rookie year, Peyton Manning had a yards per attempt of 6.6. In his rookie year, Lamar Jackson had yards per attempt of 7.1.
I want an honest answer from you right now. If you had to rank, knowing what you know about the 3 quarterbacks you've now recently compared, Michael Vick, Peyton Manning, and Lamar Jackson, which career would you want on your team?
Lamar Jackson's career is incomplete. Right now, Peyton Manning. And then Mike Vick.
Right. Okay.
Right now.
Yeah.
After their rookie seasons?
After the rookie seasons, Peyton Manning would be last. He led the NFL. Like, he has like the all-time interceptions or some shit, right?
I just wanted it
with
to
a
be
Hall of
clear
Fame receiver.
That all this bluster you were doing was a facade, a mask over the understanding that these other players are significantly better and probably always will be.
No, the point is that these players that had lesser statistics than Lamar Jackson last year went on to have, at minimum, respectable NFL careers and were at one point or another considered good/great.
I really wish Lamar had played this week because making fun of him was my favorite part of this whole thing.
Yeah, you're not going to get any of that till the second Sunday in September.
I know. I've got Game Pass. I'll just rewatch Game 1 when he threw nonsense.
If you want to rewatch a game, you can rewatch that Sunday night game against the Chargers from last year. Rewatch that joint.
All right, let's wrap this up. All right, so Pigskin Pick'em, join it, be a part of it. It was fun last year. It'll be fun this year. We'll talk some shit. We'll have some fun. Maybe we'll even have you on the show, so you can be listened to by our family and friends. Madden,
and
Joey's
Freddie
Kitchens,
and
even Baker Mayfield, right? Because of the mustaches.
That's right.
Madden, Joey's been playing Madden, so he'll be playing a little bit of that. If you want to challenge him, you want to play him, hey man. Give it a go. See if you can do it. See if you can break his controller remotely.
That hasn't happened in a while.
He does play on Xbox. I still have to confer with the better half if I'm allowed to play Madden again. So more to come with that. But like I said, I'm thinking about maybe some Tecmo Bowl, maybe some old NFL Blitz. We'll see. But either way, that'll be streaming on Twitch. So look out for that. If you don't know what Twitch is, get with the times and look it up on the internet. In the upcoming weeks, we've got the actual regular season predictions, so look out for those. Over the next 2 weeks, we'll be giving those out. Yeah, guys. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, all that business. Anywhere you can interact with human beings, you can interact with us. So be sure to do that. If you listen to the show and you like things like fill in some blanks for us by going on our Facebook, make some comments. We'll be doing a lot of polls this year, just like we did last year. Those were always a ton of fun. So keep engaged. The regular season, it's coming sooner than later, guys. Pay attention.
Tune in next week for Justin to hit the panic button after Cleveland shows no effort and loses their second preseason game in a row.
It's better than winning all 4 preseason games, right?
After Garrett Gilbert.
Yeah. Which is actually an interesting thing that we didn't get to, is the quarterback spot, the backup spot for Cleveland, but whatever.
So interested in that.
I'm pretty fucking interested. Let me tell you. All right. And the kicking competition, we didn't even get into that. Oh, and the Scottish Hammer. Oh man. Anyways, he made a tackle this week. You guys didn't even talk about that. Anyways,
Justin needs like a local hour special edition where he can just ramble about Scottish punters.
That tackle was the third most interesting thing about the game, and I only got.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys got? You degenerates have?
Finito.
All right.
10
guys.
for 26.
10 for 26. All right, guys. Catch you on the flip side. Take it easy.
Gang.